Thank you for joining me. I'm super excited. Today we're talking about really like one of my favorite topics. So I'm very excited. So let's just go ahead and get started, right? So by way of introduction, my name is Aldreama Harper, and I am a podcast launch strategist, organizing and business systems consultant, and host of the Organizedpreneur podcast. And so I decided with more than 20 years of professional organizing and consulting and launching three podcasts, I decided I would combine my areas of passion and expertise into my business and my podcasting endeavors. And so I'm here to guide you, to help guide you, right, through some of the complexities, some of the pitfalls, some of the obstacles, some of the overwhelm, based on my personal experience, right, of launching, podcasts and business, which in turn helps you in your podcast and business. And so, because the skills that you're going to acquire during this masterclass are transferable and applicable to various aspects of your business and well beyond podcasting. Okay. So what you can expect from this masterclass are three things. Number one, you'll get actionable insights and practical tools that you can apply immediately to launch and grow your podcast. Number two, the steps that I'll be sharing with you are foundational building steps to help prepare you for a more successful podcast launch. That also, the strategies that I share helps and applies to your business as well. Okay. And then number three, there's nothing to sell. At the end, I'll have a time for Q&A where I'll answer questions that either were submitted, or maybe there's a question that you may have at the end. And I will definitely, answer those if you're here live, or whether you respond to the replay or what have you. But I'll also share an opportunity to book a success call if you're interested. And that is if you're interested in closing the gap between where you are now and where you're trying to go. Okay. And you want to close that gap between where you are now and where you want to go, and how to fill that gap. Then I'll share options available at that time on the call, that if it makes sense for you, for the two of us to work together, we'll discuss how to move forward. Okay. At that time on that call. Otherwise, I don't have anything to sell you. Okay. Now, here's the thing, and this is the most important thing. Right? I want you to take notes, but most importantly, I want you to take action. That's the most important thing, because you can get the information anywhere. But if you don't apply it, if you don't take action, you're still going to be stuck where you are. Okay? Now, what I want to do now is I'm going to put the information in the chat if you're interested in anything as far as the call, as far as subscribing to the Organizedpreneur podcast, and or joining the community. I'll put that in the chat. But let's continue. All right, so here we go. So podcasting is not just about creating content. Yes, it is one of the most significant parts of podcasting. But podcasting is also about strategically positioning yourself in a competitive market. And yes, it is competitive. In fact, as of 2024, there's a statistic that says there are over 2.4 million podcasts. So knowing that, it is essential that you know and understand that standing out is going to require a concerted effort in building a loyal audience, effectively marketing your show, and implementing various monetizing strategies, right? And I know that can be daunting, but with the right approach, it can also be incredibly rewarding, right? And so um I just wanted to make sure that put that out there because I like to put out there the challenges as well as the rewarding aspect of it. Okay. All right. So let's kind of get into the masterclass. So we're talking about creating your podcast haven. Okay. Creating your podcast haven. And so what we're going to do is we're going to explore how having the right environment can drastically improve the quality of your podcast. I bet you never thought about the fact that your environment alone can enhance the quality of your podcast, right? So if you're eager to create the right podcasting environment for you, then you're in the right place because I'm going to guide you through and help you understand the importance of your environment, assessing your space options, implementing solutions for your studio. Now, this is not specifically about equipment. I will cover a couple of things concerning equipment, but it's about creating an environment that's conducive for creating a better experience for you and your listeners, because you want a podcasting environment that enhances the quality of your recording and make the process more enjoyable, right? As well as efficient. You want to do that, so that you can deliver a podcast that captivates and retains your audience. So we're going to cover that. And we're going to cover this in 3 steps, right? The impact of your environment, the impact your environment has on podcast quality, the psychological benefits of a well-organized podcast haven, and then creating a distraction-free space. All right, let's dive in. All right, here we go. So let's talk about the impact your environment has on your podcast quality. So your recording environment plays a very critical role in the overall quality of your podcast, including poor acoustics, background noise, distractions that can detract from your content, making it extremely difficult for listeners to stay engaged and focused, and you to stay focused, right? And so a well-designed podcast space can ensure that your audio is clear, it's professional, and people enjoy listening to you, right? So, for example, have you ever watched a YouTube video and was distracted by, or even a master class, right? Or you were distracted by the presenter's background. Like they got so much stuff in the background, like you can't even focus. Now, that doesn't happen as much now because now people have a way of, having a virtual background. And so, that they can hide, all of the stuff in the background, but what's there, right? You know what's there. And so when you're working from home or in a home office, nobody sees it but you. And so that can really impact your focus when you're doing like solo episodes in an audio format and you just have all of this stuff around you and stuff that's keeping you distracted, right? So what I call that is visual noise, right? And so visual noise, whether someone else sees your visual noise or you're seeing your visual noise, then it can be very distracting for, again, the listener that's looking at your background, as well as you, the presenter. And so, as you know, if you've been following me, or if ever been, in any of my classes or what have you, that or maybe I know I've shared it in various opportunities that I've had, to share. But as a virtual professional organizer, I have helped countless clients with clutter, in person and virtually. right? And most of them are just amazed to discover the impact the environment has on their productivity and focus. I mean, so it really does impact the things around you, and your environment impacts all of it, right? So what is visual noise? So visual noise refers to, this is the official definition. Visual noise refers to the clutter or the disorganization in your visual field, that can distract you and hinder your ability to focus. It includes anything, I mean, like if you have piles of paper, clutter on your desk, even excessive decorations, tangled cords. And not only that, if you have a lot of tabs open on your computer, that's visual noise, right? And so what I want to do is I want to get into the 4 ways that visual noise impacts your focus and productivity. So let's talk about number 1. And I'm telling you, these are things that maybe you've considered. Maybe you thought, okay, I don't know if what it is, but I can't seem to focus today. Maybe one of these things will hit home. Okay. So 4 ways that visual noise impacts your focus and productivity. Number 1, increased cognitive load. Increased cognitive load. Visual noise forces your brain to process additional information, increasing cognitive load and making it very hard to concentrate on the task at hand. So if your desk is cluttered with papers, for example, your brain continuously registers them as items needing your attention. And then that diverts your focus from your primary work. So this applies to podcasting. This applies to working, like in your home office. For example, like for me, this is my home office. So I like to keep it clutter-free as possible. I don't need any distractions because I realize how easily I can get distracted. And maybe this speaks to you as well. So increased cognitive load. Number 2, mental fatigue. Mental fatigue. What? Yes, mental fatigue. So constant exposure to visual noise can lead to mental fatigue as your brain works overtime to filter out the unnecessary stimuli. Visual noise is a lot of stimuli. And so a workplace that's filled with unnecessary items will tire your brain out faster, and it reduces your overall productivity and efficiency. All right, so that's number 2. Number 3, stress and anxiety. Right, stress and anxiety. So a cluttered environment can contribute to feelings of stress and anxiety, making it difficult to relax and focus. You need focus in order to do your work, in order to focus on your content creation and everything that's involved in your business and moving your business forward. Because what we're talking about here, we're talking about podcasting, but we're talking about podcasting related to your business. If you want podcasting to be another way, or you want to leverage podcasting as a way to get to your audience, right? And so a messy room or a messy desk can create a sense of chaos, and that leads to increased stress levels and a sense of feeling overwhelmed. And it's a challenge, right? And so number 4, decreased efficiency. Well, duh. Visual noise can lead to decreased efficiency as you spend more time looking for stuff, looking for keys, looking for stuff that's getting you distracted, looking for pins, looking for important documents among all of the stuff that you have to look through, it it's wasting valuable time. It's wasting valuable work time. It's wasting valuable time. And I don't know about you, I value my time. And so I'm not going to allow myself to be in a cluttered space when I know that this is decreasing my efficiency. Okay. So those are the four ways that you are impacted, right? That by visual noise, your focus and your productivity is impacted that way. So let's move on to the next thing I want to talk about are what are the psychological benefits then of a well organized podcast space? Because you want to psychologically, it's going to require that you are fully present and you don't need any additional stuff to keep you from being fully present or impacting any of your focus and stress and all of that stuff. So a well-organized podcast space can really have profound psychological benefits that enhance your creativity, productivity, and overall well-being. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into that and what that looks like. So let's talk about psychological benefit number one. And we just kind of touched on that a second ago. So reduced stress and anxiety. So I just talked about how a cluttered space raises your stress level and anxiety, but a decluttered space reduces stress and anxiety. This is a number one psychological benefit. A tidy and organized space gives you a sense of control over your environment, not chaos. And so that in turn, that can significantly reduce feelings of stress and anxiety. So an uncluttered space is visually calming. It helps to prevent that sensory overload, right? That visual noise that we were talking about, that, extra stimuli. And it creates a more serene atmosphere for providing visual calmness. That's what you want in your space, right? And I know many of you get stuck because you haven't created that space for work or podcasting that's conducive for a smoother, less stressful environment for you to work in, for you to be in, for you to enjoy. Like knowing where everything is and not having to hunt for equipment and notes and things like that for your podcast sessions, right? Whether you are interviewing someone or being on someone else's podcast, it will create a more enjoyable experience. All right. Psychological benefit number two, increased focus and productivity. We've been talking about that. I know you're probably tired of hearing it now, but that's benefit number two. So a clutter-free environment minimizes distractions, and in turn, that allows you to concentrate better on your content creation, because when your tools and your materials and everything is well organized, then you can work more effectively, and that leads to higher productivity levels. And so I know many of you are probably, stuck. I talk to my clients and I talk to people all the time because you haven't created that well-organized haven where you can quickly set up, start recording, make the most of your time, and avoid procrastination, because it's hard enough, when, like I said, I hear people, getting stuck. That's one of the things, like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Where do I start? That type of thing. This is going to enhance in that area. Okay. Make the most of your time. Psychological benefit number three, boosted creativity. A clean and organized space promotes mental clarity, right? And this enables enables you to think more clearly and creatively, because an organized and orderly space with intentional decor can stimulate creative thinking and inspire new ideas. It's one of the top obstacles I hear from podcasters. How do I come up with content? I don't know what to talk about. And I'm telling you, understanding that a neat and aesthetically pleasing space can serve as a blank canvas that sparks creativity and helps you to come up with fresh ideas and engaging podcast comment. I'll give you a better example. So I have a client that went through one of my 5-day decluttering challenges. I don't do those anymore, but a couple of years ago, about a year and a half ago, I was doing 5-day decluttering challenges. And the young lady who is actually still my client right today, when she started the 5-day challenge, she did not have a business. After she went through the 5-day challenge, she created and launched her virtual assistant agency. She now is a 6-figure entrepreneur with staff, and that happened less than a year. In less than a year. Now it's been over, maybe it's going on like 2 years now since she's launched her business. But even when, because she shares with me on one of the episodes, and when we're talking, she shared with me how when she initially came to the podcast, to the decluttering challenge, she wasn't even thinking about launching a business. But because of her going through the 5-day challenge and going through the steps, she was able to think more clearly. It just expanded her creative thinking, and it opened up ideas for her to create a business, which she had not even thought of. Now, I can't promise that for every client, but that is one of my top success stories when it comes to decluttering and the psychological benefit from having an uncluttered space. All right. Psychological benefit number 4, enhanced motivation and engagement. And so an orderly space can be motivating because it makes you more enthusiastic about your work, your podcasting tasks, all of those things. And if you're blessed enough to have a dedicated and organized space, it helps you to establish a routine, promoting consistency in your content creation. That is another one of the obstacles when I'm talking to people about podcasting. Not only do they feel stuck in creating content, a lot of people get stuck in creating consistency in content creation and podcast episodes. So having a dedicated, well-organized space where everything is set up and ready to go when you're ready to start recording makes you more eager to record and produce new episodes and new content regularly, right? I know it does for me. Psychological benefit number 5 is better time management. Better time management. So when your podcasting materials and equipment and everything is organized, you save time. You can focus your efforts on content creation and not where stuff is and moving stuff out of the way when you're ready to record. So an organized space helps you to prioritize your tasks, and it helps you to manage your time more effectively. And so that is what leads to better productivity. With a clear workspace and everything in its place, you can streamline your podcasting process and make the most of your recording sessions, right? So in my organizing business, when I mentioned that I was doing decluttering challenges. And so, not only was I doing decluttering challenges at one time, because I've been doing this for more than 20 years, I would go to clients' homes, organize closets, organize kitchens, organize spaces, garages, you name it, cars, right? But once I moved to the virtual space and started doing the virtual, decluttering challenges and things like that, I began to create a system. I created a system, and this is, my system for helping people to simplify their organizing endeavors. Put my ear thing back in there. So when you have a system, it really does help. Like when you have a system for organizing your space, like you follow this, and I'm going to share it with you. But when you follow this system, when you follow a system, and there are many systems out there, right? Mine isn't the only way. That's what I tell people, right? My system is not the only way, but it is a good way to apply to your organizing of any space, your home office, any space that you are endeavoring to organize. And so I'll share with you, what that looks like, because I really want you, my goal is to help you create your podcast haven. Okay. And so, because I understand the importance of it, I understand the importance of, when you're working from home and you're trying to really, create the best content, the best products, the best services that you possibly can. It's really important that you have a very organized space. So my system is called APACT, and that is spelled APACT, and it's an acronym. And so what I'm going to do is help you show you how that can apply to your podcast haven and creating that space, right? And so I'll share with you each acronym and what what you can do with that. Now, I'm not going to take a deep dive into this, but I will share, from a high level standpoint. And this is what I've used with my clients for years, particularly once I came into helping my clients virtually, because I wanted them to have something that simplifies the organizing process and something that makes it easy to remember and apply. So again, it's called APACT, APACT. So, and it works seamlessly, right? All right. So the A stands for assess, right? You want to evaluate your current recording space or your home office. This applies to any space. You want to evaluate the space, make sure that it's free from as it relates to, so let me just say this as it relates to your podcast recording, okay? Because I don't want to start talking about, other things, but because we're talking about your podcast haven. So you want to assess your current recording space. Is it free from external noise? Is it free from distractions, right? Does it have good sound acoustics? Do you hear echoes in the background? So you gotta assess the space to make sure that it's going to be conducive for recording a podcast. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be conducive for recording podcasts. You can use a closet, right? So that's assess. That's the A. The P is for purge. So once you assess, you want to remove any unnecessary items that may cause clutter or distractions, like what we've been talking about. Non-essential furniture, gadgets, decorations, anything that doesn't contribute to your recording process. You want to remove and purge those unnecessary items. So that's the P. The A stands for assign. So in this instance, you want to designate specific areas for different podcasting activities. For example, if it's a corner, you want to designate and assign that corner specifically for recording. Maybe you do some editing as well. So there's the editing area. Maybe you do it in the same space, maybe not, right? But you want to make sure that you designate specific areas for different podcasting activities. Okay. Like I said, a corner for recording, a desk for editing, shelves for storing equipment, that type of thing. So that's the A. The C stands for containerize. Okay. So in this instance, you want to use containers to organize your podcasting equipment, right? Most people in their organizing endeavors, they want to start with getting all the cute containers and things like that when they haven't even assessed the space, right? But the C again is for containerizing cables, microphones, other accessories, labeled bins, drawers, things like that, so that you keep them out of the way. So that's the C for containerize. And the T stands for tidy up. Okay. You want to keep your recording space cleaned and organized. You want to regularly tidy up to ensure it maintains a professional, inviting environment for recording. Now, if you're having people to come in, I know I watch YouTube, video podcasts, so you want to have a space designated and you want that space to be tidy, right? So that's the APACT system that I use to help my clients. And hopefully that's something that helps you as well. Now, and here's the thing. When it all boils down to making your podcast and your environment work for you and your business and create a win-win situation, which includes creating your podcast haven. Okay, so I want to hopefully these are tips that can really help you. But what I want to do is I want to stop here, and I want to remember I said I want to answer questions, right? And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop and answer a question that was received from one of the registrants who asked, how do I get started? What equipment do I need? What platform do I use? So this is one of the questions. And maybe you are listening to this replay, or you're listening to this as a podcast or what have you, and maybe you have the same question. So here's the answer. You start by defining your niche or niche, whatever you want to call it, and creating content for that niche. That's it. That's how you start, right? Don't start by buying equipment, because as long as you have a mic or a headset, even, earbuds like I have, you can definitely get started. Don't let that stop you from getting started. You don't have to buy expensive equipment. Okay. In fact, this mic, which is my Yeti mic, I bought it a few years ago. I'm still using it because I love it. I think I want to say at the time, I'm sure it's not the same. I'm certain it's not the same price, but I bought it for, I think it was like $59 at the time. So it was a few years ago. So it may be closer to $100, right? And as far as the platform that I use, I teach my clients to use Spotify for podcasters. It's an amazing platform, and you can use that to create excellent podcasts, and it is free. Okay, so that answers that question. Okay, so I hope that this masterclass has helped helped you. I hope it's been helpful for you. Again, if you're interested in closing the gap between where you are now and where you want to go and how to fill in the gap, then book a success strategy call with me. There, I'll share options that's available. And if at that time it makes sense for us to work together, we'll discuss how to move forward. And so the links will be in the chat. It will also be in the show notes. Um, but the success strategy call is the link is bit.ly/pod launch strategy. So you'll answer a few questions that helps me to be prepared for our call. It'll be a 30-minute call, and we'll discuss a strategy. And again, if there are options that's available where I can help you, we'll talk about how to move forward. So that link again is that's bit.ly/pod launch strategy, one word. Okay. So in the meantime, I always ask if you will be so kind as to subscribe to the podcast. You can find the podcast on organizedpreneurpodcast.com. And I would love to hear your feedback on the episodes. And definitely very grateful for you taking the time, to listen and subscribe. Also, if you're interested in joining our free Facebook community, you can go to businessandpodcastsociety.com, and then you can join our free community where we are there to support you and as well as connect and continue the conversation. So, all right. So that is all we have for now. I appreciate you joining. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching. So until then, have an amazing day. Thank you so much. I wish you the best. Have a great day. Bye.